Magandang araw, Podmates. Howie Severino muli na may espesyal na panauhin na tutulong sa ating intindihin itong impeachment process at trial na kasalukuyang nagaganap sa Senado. None other than Associate Dean of UP Law School, Attorney Paulo Tamase, na nagtuturo ng constitutional law, legal history, public officers at iba pa. Tulad na marami, nakatutok si Professor Tamase sa impeachment trial ni Vice President Sara Duterte sa Senado. In this episode, I will be asking Attorney Tamase to help provide context or background for this political exercise. Impeachment 101, kumbaga, para sa madla, lalo na sa mga non-lawyer katulad ko. Magandang araw, Attorney Paulo Tamase.
Magandang araw din, Howie, and to all of your listeners.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. So, ang Senado nabuo na bilang isang impeachment court. Okay, let's start with the basics. No? Kakaiba to sa mga karaniwang korteng alam natin. Bihira itong mag-convene, obviously. Paano siya naiiba?
So, yung key difference ng impeachment court with the Senate and yung regular courts natin in the judicial branch is really yung frame or yung mindset of how they decide cases. Judicial courts, bound sila, no? Parang kasama sa kanila yung requirement that they rule neutrally, codes of impartiality are applied very strictly, and they rule according to law and fact. Yung impeachment court natin, according to our impeachment practice, hindi naman hindi sila fair na nagro-rule. But yung standards na very strict for judges, they don't apply to our senators kasi hindi naman sila necessarily trained as lawyers or trained in the law. And they're expected to rule on the basis of policy and political judgment. So they are required naman sila to maintain itong political neutrality based especially on our tradition and how impeachment has evolved sa Pilipinas. But on the whole, no, we don't expect them to be anything less than senators, even if they wear fancy robes na normally for judges. Okay. The other important thing is procedure. So court procedures are very strictly applied, very detailed yung proseso. Sa court, civil procedure is a major subject for any law student. Yung senators natin are not trained in that type of procedure. And therefore, pag nakita niyo yung trial, no, may mixture of both legislative as well as judicial aspects yung proseso niya. But on the whole, yung process is not very strict. Kasi yung main consideration is not really yung technical questions for judges like admissibility, yung preponderance or weight of evidence. Ang importante is yung truth. And therefore, impeachment at its core is really a truth-telling proceeding involving a very important official in government.
Okay, well, thank you for that explanation. No? There's a number of things there that I'd like to unpack with you. Pero I want to start with something that's obvious to many. Sabi mo nga, naging judges na tong mga senador natin. Kasi sa karaniwang korte, isa lang ang judge. That's also something, I guess, that makes this particular court unique. Alam mo, mong iniisip ko to, parang it reminds me of kind of the American jury system that we see on TV and in the movies, no? Wala tayong jury system dito sa Pilipinas. Pero parang ganun din ba to? Kasi nga they're hearing evidence and they also will vote and decide on the fate of whoever is on trial, 'di ba? Kumbaga, the jury also judges, di ba?
No, it's very similar to a jury. In fact, if you go back to the Estrada impeachment in the 2000s, and you look at media reports around that time, impeachment was very new as a trial sa Pilipinas. So everyone was trying to understand yung terminology. Many newspapers, media outlets called them jurors. No? And then later on, na-clarify na lang yung terminology that the Senate uses for itself, na judges. Kasi nga wala naman tayong jury system. But to your point, Howie, ang jury system kasi sa United States and common law countries like the UK, yung konsepto nun ay iko-convict ka for a crime or judge yung liability mo para sa isang krimen on the basis of the judgment of your peers. And yung peers mo are not necessarily lawyers as well. So juries sa Estados Unidos, hindi mga abogado usually. In fact, normally hindi allowed yung yung lawyers, especially if may involvement or knowledge of the eccentricities ng case na yun. So usually excused sila from jury duty. So in a way, address din yung tanong sa impeachment to people who also are not trained in law. So ang tanong lang dun is, yung moral conscience ba ninyo based dito sa instruction ng judge in the US and based on the facts na nakita ninyo, guilty ba itong tao na ito? So very different dynamic from a judge normally na very technical yung assessment niya of the law and the facts behind each issue or each ground.
Kasi nga ilang beses mo rin sinabi no sa in other interviews, and you've actually written about this na may danger dito sa impeachment court na maging over judicialized as opposed to being a political process, no? Kumbaga, that's another big difference between what's going on in the Senate as an impeachment court and itong regular court, which sabi mo nga, I mean, that's a legal proceeding presided over by a single judge who has to be a lawyer, di ba? In this case, itong mga senador, I think the majority of them are not lawyers, di ba?
Yes, we have the lowest number of lawyers in the Senate, I think since 1987. And maganda yung point mo about the over-judicialization. No? And I think usually kasi yung tinatanong ng tao, parang hindi ba better na sobrang strict na lang nung process, parang korte siya na compliant talaga sa strict rules of procedure and then may standards of evidence. I think yung answer of most constitutional scholars there is ayaw kasi natin na ma-conflate yung different types of accountability in government and different types of liability. So a public officer, a high public official, pwede siyang liable for criminal matters, no? In which case kulong yung consequence. Pwede siyang liable for civil matters, in which case pera yung binabayaran to parang pay for the damages na nasuffer ng isang party. But yung impeachment is really a process of political accountability. Yung tinatanong din is hindi kung dapat makulong yung isang tao, hindi kung dapat ba siya magbayad ng damages, but kung dapat pa siya mag-continue in office, continue serving the public and exercising state power. So very different yung question na involved. And therefore, because ganun yung tanong, hindi din necessarily according to law lagi yung standards na tinitingnan sa impeachment. Kaya ayaw natin siya na ma-over-judicialize. Kasi baka ang mangyari, no, hindi na tayo nakafocus doon sa truth, the basic truth of dapat pagkatiwalaan pa ba yung official, but nakafocus na tayo doon, tama ba yung objection niya? Or parang, admissible ba yung evidence niya?
Yung sinasabi mong over-judicialization or over-judicialize, ang ibig sabihin, kasi that sounds like a highfalutin word, no? So, ang ibig sabihin yan ay parang legalistic o masyadong technical ang nagiging proseso na maaring maudlot yung proseso dahil nga sa isang, legal technicality as opposed
Yes.
to the overriding concern for yun nga accountability, no?
Yes, and the truth. So a good example with that is again yung Estrada impeachment. Yung most famous episode or one of the most famous episodes of the Estrada impeachment involved yung second envelope. Diba? Bubuksan ba ng Senate yung envelope na yun na supposedly containing certain bank records na critical to the case of the prosecution. Yung argument nung side na hindi yan dapat buksan involved legalistic arguments na
that's the defense of Estrada, of course.
Yes, bank secrecy, relevance, all of these other technical terms na people spend 4 years trying to study in law school and then some sa practice. But ultimately, yung mamamayan nun, and speaking as a 10-year-old boy at the time of the impeachment trial of ERAP, parang ang iniisip lang naman nun, totoo ba o hindi? No? Ano ba yung ebidensya na kaya naman namin i-assess yan on our own. So even if normally, potentially maharang yun in court, the fact that the impeachment is a political truth-telling process suggests na yung rules na stricto sa court, hindi siya dapat nag-a-apply and you don't want to over-judicialize yung proseso ng impeachment.
Okay, so now that you opened up the subject of the Estrada trial, no, in the Senate, many of our viewers and listeners now either were not born yet or maybe are as young as you or even much younger than you. No? So we'll just do a little bit of impeachment history here. No? So President, he was president then, President Joseph Estrada. was impeached by the House and he was undergoing trial in the Senate. Supposedly, may malakas na ebidensya dito sa envelope na pinresent ng prosecutor. Nag-object nga, sabi mo nga, nag-object yung defense lawyers ni Estrada na buksan, no? And then, of course, the Senate voted. I think it was 11-10, or it was a very close vote, no? At pumanig yung majority sa defense, no? So hindi nabuksan yung envelope, no? So what you're saying is that's an example of a process that was over judicialized or na technical yung trial, kaya hindi lumabas yung ebidensya. So sinasabi
Yes.
mo sinasabi mo yung objection ng defense lawyers ni President Estrada hindi valid or hindi dapat pinakinggan or binigyang bisa ng mga senador kasi maaring technically correct, legally correct yung kanilang panig, di ba?
Well, hindi naman necessarily na correct. No? I think legally, you could have argued kung sa korte pa yon na dapat nabuksan yung second envelope in 2001. No? But it goes to show na yung those types of arguments, baka naintindihan ng abogado yun, baka naintindihan ng judge yun, pero pagdating sa mamamayan na hindi naman nag-aral ng law, ang hinahanap lang yung katotohanan in all of the process, parang ang unang iisipin nun, bakit mo pinatago yung ebidensya? Even when kung lawyers lang involved dyan in the normal court process, maintindihan mo why certain evidence can't be opened, even if they may indicate the truth. So, yun yung, I think example talaga yun na if you over judicialize the process, you apply very strict rules of procedure, very strict rules of evidence, then you don't only suppress potentially yung truth. The fact is many of the offenses in an impeachment case, normally hindi nga yan pasok sa specific na criminal violations. So, ibig sabihin yung evidence for it, hindi din ganun ka-technical in the first place. But you also risk losing yung trust ng publiko in the process. And it's a good reminder always for the Senate na pagdating dito sa objections na to or sa technical issues, it's not only important to keep in mind yung core ng impeachment as a truth-telling procedure, but also be scared about ano pag nabwisit yung tao doon sa pagtatago ng ebidensya.
Okay, just to refresh again, kasi this is 26 years ago, no? The objection of the President Estrada's defense team was rooted in their argument that these bank documents that were supposedly evidence of, I guess, graft and corruption or hidden wealth were not part of the original complaint na nanggaling sa House, di ba? So,
Yes.
oo. So, that's their legal argument. So, hindi kasama doon sa complaint. So, bakit nyo kami binuluga? Di ba? Parang sinurprise mo yung korte with this new evidence, kumbaga, no? But I guess from my perspective, you cannot really I cannot blame the defense lawyers for trying to use everything within their means to defend their client. So it's the senators, the judges in the impeachment court who decided that they were going to give to give value to this argument na papanigan nila, no, na so sila yung nag-over judicialize, di ba? It's really up to the senators to do that.
Yes, it's the ethical duty of the defense lawyers then na i-combat, di ba? I mean, do yung trabaho naman ng lawyer to do the best for their client. And I think if you have a plausible argument, similar to courts, no? Sa courts kasi pag napag-desisyonan na kung ano yung evidence na ipipresenta in a pre-trial, which is what the current Senate did, no? Na ito lang yung ebidensya na ipapakita, ito lang yung issues na kasama, pwede mo talagang i-object yung pagpresenta ng evidence on the ground of relevance, among others, a key requirement for evidence to be admitted in court. Pero no, pag ultimately yung accountability doesn't really fall upon the defense counsel, it falls upon the senator judges. Kasi just because one side objected doesn't mean they have to listen to it.
Ang nangyari dito, of course, we have to continue the Estrada story because that it gets even more exciting, right? So, ang nangyari dyan, the second envelope was not opened. And then yun nga, nagkaroon ng public reaction, to say the least, no? Kasi people took to the streets.
Yes.
Kumbaga, oo, people, I guess the general opinion was may tinatago itong Senado. 'Di ba? Na ayaw buksan, na despite the legal arguments of the defense team, naniniwala pa rin yung publiko, no? So may malaking ano rito, may malaking papel ang public opinion dito sa impeachment court.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Both trials in ERAP and Chief Justice Corona, the only two trials we've had, sobrang laki ng role ng publiko. And I think, Howie, to refresh you, for your listeners who might not have been aware at the time, nung nag-vote yung Senate in 2001, January 2001, not to open the second envelope, immediately nag-walk out yung prosecution team, nag-resign si Senate President Aquilino Pimentel at the time, who was co-presiding the impeachment trial. And then in the age before social media, texts went around saying sa EDSA na lang tayo magkikita or something to that effect. So, yung bilis nung galit nung, I think, nung mamamayan was also aided by very important moral courage, or the show of moral courage of certain important officials. So definitely yung the 10 senators who decided to vote for opening the second envelope. And Senator Pimentel, who was, I think, allied with the president at the time, diba? Because as Senate President Majority Leader, as Senate President supported by the majority, he was seen as allied with the president at least at the beginning. And then, nung important na yung moment na may tinatago na ebidensya or may ebidensya na ayaw ipakita, he decided to step down. So yung drama na yun created or set the stage for people understanding na, teka, may iffy or parang may wrong na, may mali na nangyayari. And dun lang silabasan yung tao. So, tas tuloy-tuloy na sa EDSA, hindi na nakapag-trial the next day.
Yun ang tinaguri ang EDSA DOS, di ba?
Yes, yes.
Which led to the resignation of President Estrada. He fled Malacanang on a boat. You know, we covered that, and that was triggered by not just the uprising of people and the Senate vote, but also the withdrawal of the military from his in support of his the withdrawal of military support from his administration. So parang nagkaroon ng domino effect, no? Starting with that. But yun nga I mean, all of this is really to illustrate your point na parang naging na-fixate doon sa legal procedures. Kaya hindi binuksan yung envelope. But of course, the refusal to open that second envelope was not just a legal decision. It was also political, di ba?
Yes, and I think magandang point yun kasi, in normal courts, pag nagkamali ang judge or nagkamali yung trial court, ang nangyayari, may option ka to appeal, right? You go to the Court of Appeals from the RTC, then you go to the Supreme Court, which means may opportunity to correct yung judgment na yun using legal standards as well by people who are also trained in law. Pero pag nagkamali ng political judgment, yung impeachment court, taong bayan yung naniningil nung paano mo siya i-correct. Kasi hindi na pwede baliktarin ng any court yung pagkakamali eh. So in the EDSA 2, in the case of EDSA 2, it was a revolt, no, or parang a popular uprising na nangyari. And yun, or in the normal cases in other countries na hindi naman necessarily nag-result in mass uprisings, yung effect would normally be elections. So you also saw that in EDSA 2, yung midterm elections that happened after 3-4 months after EDSA 2, natalo yung karamihan dun sa 11 who voted not to open the second envelope. So political din yung judgment or yung correction in cases of impeachment.
Okay, balikan ko lang tong public opinion, no? Kasi kami mga reporter, journalists na nagko-cover ng courts ng mga kaso under litigation. Minsan sasabihan kami na sub judice, di ba? That's a principle where which some people use to refuse to comment on a case because there is a principle in the legal profession where you're not supposed to say things publicly that could influence the outcome of a case, di ba? Which is actually the opposite of what you're saying in this particular court, itong impeachment court ng Senado, where you're saying public opinion is very important. Pero in other kinds of courts, criminal courts, the usual courts that people know, parang ini-insulate yung court proceedings from public opinion.
Yes. In fact, no, if you want to use the jury analogy sa US, we have 12 people in that jury. May jury sequestration pa na tinatawag. No? Parang tinatago talaga sila, hindi nila nababasa yung news, no? On the trial, para ang tinitignan lang nila is the evidence on record, yung evidence na pinayagan ng court na makita. Diba yung impeachment? Because again, hindi siya legal process. No? The court says it's legal, constitutional, and political, but at its core, political talaga siya na proseso. Kasi nakikita mo kaagad yung reaction ng taong bayan. And I think relevant yun because, if I'm not mistaken, yung Senate rules ngayon, mayroong, or may instruction for the lawyers regarding sub judice, na parang you are not supposed to litigate your case before the public. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing to do. Kasi even in the Corona impeachment, no, both panels had their own spokespersons who had to explain to the public kung ano yung nangyayari. And especially because hindi mo naman maiwasan na kahit paano gagamit ng legal language, legal procedure, yung impeachment. Yung objective is actually to keep the public informed. Yun yung pinakamahalaga.
So I guess the point that I'm driving at here is that tinatawag siyang court, no? But may hangganan lang dapat ang sinasabi mo, itong mga legalistic argumentation, because it is really as much as it's also a political process, no? In fact, it's probably even more so. Dahil nga hindi clearly defined yung mga rules dito, no? Yung mga standards of evidence, for example, no? But some are saying, and I've observed in this particular case, itong kay Vice President Sara Duterte, yung kanyang defense team has been kind of taking that approach, no? A kind of legalistic approach rather than trying to debunk the evidence, no? Parang they're raising issues about due process and that kind of thing. So do you see the upcoming trial as maybe getting bogged down in something similar that has already happened in our history, which has had major consequences, as we've seen?
I think there is a risk, for sure. You're right, na hindi lang objections in the quote-unquote impeachment court. I'm not really a fan of that term na kasi Senate lang naman ang nasa sa Constitution natin but we call it an impeachment court kasi we expect by tradition that our senators act fairly and neutrally as much as possible. But to the point, I think you can expect na legal talaga yung arguments na ilalabas nung other side. And from a strategic perspective, that may have a few effects. One is now obfuscate yung issue or yung evidentiary questions. Ano ba talaga yung pinag-aawayan na issue dito? Once you start hearing Latin, parang people tune out. And hindi ko alam if that's a strategy that is being employed, but may risk talaga for people to stop listening when lawyers sound like lawyers. Kasi nakakapagod din pakinggan yun. The second thing na might be a result is that yung law is often, respectfully, misused away from values like truth, accountability, fairness, equality, yung values that are important to a democracy. Misused sila in order to get things done by the administration and ginagamit ng administration to justify some of those acts, like kasi they violate certain laws supposedly. So ginagamit yung law as a whitewashing device, and yun yung what we want to avoid.
I've heard the term weaponization of the law, di ba?
Yes, other scholars call it lawfare, no, but ganun, weaponization talaga siya.
So looking at the Philippine history of impeachment, ano ba yung factors that have had the greatest influence on the outcomes of impeachment proceedings. Considering it's also, sabi mo nga, it's also a political process. May political process, no? Ano bang ibig sabihin niyan? It doesn't just mean it's partisan, 'di ba? I mean, it's not just a numbers game na sino ba yung mga kakampi ko diyan, etc., no? It's the judges here, or the people who are going to decide the fate of the person on trial, are political actors, no? Na halal silang lahat. They're all elected, they're all, answerable to the people, etc., no? Is that what you mean by this, that it's a political process, no? The ones presiding over the process are political actors. They're politicians.
Yes, and I know that politica has had a dirty connotation in our society, but politics simply means na hindi siya based on what is correct under the law, based lang siya on what is right, or what is preferable to society. So yun yung politics that we refer to when we talk about impeachment. At its core, question of policy and on whether somebody should continue in office. And that was at least the design ng Americans from where we took impeachment up until we took impeachment as early as 1935. But if you look at recent Philippine history, and we've only had experience of trials, na experience lang naman natin yan post-87. Yung pinaka-important na key change in the way that impeachment trials are done in the Philippines versus sa United States is the level of publicity. So in the United States, yung Senate impeachment trials are generally held in camera only. It's televised by all of these media networks, but yung presentation ng evidence nila very selected. At least in recent impeachment trials, no? Parang namimili lang ng ebidensya yan. And the recent trials have
Sorry,
ended.
is that by law, by rules, or what?
It's by the Senate's rules. Kasi sa kanila, no, parang ayaw nila pahabain masyado. Even the Clinton impeachment trial didn't last as long. So limited yung presentation ng evidence. A large amount of evidence is actually presented behind closed doors. Tapos pinapresenta na lang siya to the Senate for their evaluation and for a vote. Yung impeachment sa Pilipinas, iba. Right? Atin, the 20 days of the impeachment trial of ERAP, the 44 days of the impeachment trial of Chief Justice Corona, yung public nakatutok talaga. They get to see the evidence that is being presented, yung witnesses who are being called, the questions na tinatanong sa kanila. So, or actually malalim yung awareness of the public if they view the trial. So, important yung publicity na nangyari in our trials and the level of the public trial na ginagawa. That said, one of the key variables that we don't know yet, na very different from the last 20, 30 years, is really how social media affects the way that the public sees the trial. Dati kasi, even up to Corona, wala kang choice. If you wanted to view it, you'd have to watch TV and see everything, whether you like it or not. But ngayon, the content, that the news that the people get are mostly curated by algorithms or by political bias behind it. So sometimes I worry na the publicity aspect of yung impeachment might have as many detrimental effects as there are good ones, in the sense that people might not be seeing yung full proceeding. They might be seeing snippets of the proceeding, spliced videos of the proceeding, and dun sila mamumuo ng judgment, which only reinforces existing biases for or against one side.
Yeah, and of course it will also influence the perception of the evidence, 'di ba? Kahit
Yes.
kahit may magpresenta ng napakalakas na ebidensya sa trial, maraming pwedeng sabihin ng marami na ano lang, AI lang yan, manipulated lang yan, at yun ang kumalat na narrative, no, na inimbento lang lahat, no. So among the factors, no, so of course this is a trial, so may evidence diyan, may legal arguments na pag-usapan natin, yung minsan na inflate yung importance ng legal aspects nito. And then you just mentioned public opinion. And then there are the political alliances, di ba? Or political loyalties na as far as this group of senators are concerned, I think people know where they stand now, no? So, alin dyan si tingin mong pinaka game changer? Importante pa ba yung evidence or pag in the face of sabi mo nga, social media where people's perception of everything can be manipulated or influenced by highly curated presentations, etc. And of course of yung political loyalties ng mga judges mismo.
It sounds idealistic, but I think ultimately evidence kasi yung pinaka-importante. And I think, sobrang important ng role ng media in terms of getting the evidence out, just getting the evidence to the public. Kasi social media creates certain additional hoops before the public gets to know yung truth behind what's happening. And I say na important yung evidence because if you look at the last two impeachment trials, ERAP and Corona, yung political alliances for and or against the impeachable officer, at the beginning of the trial, hindi yun yung naging last vote or last outcome. So in ERAP's case, the majority was much narrower than it was at the beginning of the trial. May bumaliktad talaga doon, at least on the second envelope question. Even allies of ERAP, certain allies voted with the 10 and were welcomed in EDSA 2. So yung kay Corona, makikita mo doon sa explanation of the votes ng senators, yung feeling na parang, I believe he is a good person, or parang I believe na ano naman to, may political aspect din siya, but we cannot turn away from yung ebidensya na malinaw na millions of dollars undeclared in a SALN. So ultimately, kailangan i-triangulate yun yung strength of the evidence, the quality of the publicity of the trial, they all will impact yung alliances in the sense that you can have an alliance at the beginning, but ultimately kailangan mo depend sana yung position mo as a senator 2 years from now, na paano pag tinanong ka, ang linaw-linaw ng ebidensya, bakit ganito yung boto mo, whether for or against the vice president. So if those factors come in play, then at least yung evidence will still be very material in how the last vote will be taken.
So it's possible that the vote may not necessarily follow current political alignments.
Yes, kasi otherwise, otherwise we should just stop the trial right now kasi hindi aabot doon sa 2/3 na boto. But, two things. One is hindi reflective necessarily yung final vote doon sa initial alliances as we discussed earlier. But the second is, sometimes yung processes like this, they matter for truth's sake, for accountability's sake. So even if hindi ka sure doon sa boto mo, on the part of the prosecution, for example, I think no one is claiming that they have 2/3 as of now. But sometimes for the sake of finding out the truth, for the sake of insisting on accountability in government, yung proseso na to worth taking siya. And honestly, on the part of the vice president, it's a good opportunity for her to clear her name as well. Kasi for the last year and a half, na puro prosecution ang naririnig natin in terms of what evidence they have against her, ano ba yung mga ginawa niya allegedly. Yung that truth-telling character, I think, makes impeachment worth it.
Yeah. Pero I guess that begs the question which we're all asking now is how important is truth really in our day and age, no? Kasi nga maaring lumabas ang truth pero people might not even care because mas importante yung political loyalties nila, di ba?
Yes, and I think that emphasizes again yung political character of impeachment in the sense na unlike a real trial or a trial in court, yung impeachment hindi lang on trial yung impeachable officer, the senators are also on trial, the public is watching what they will do, but the public is itself on trial. How important are values of good government, accountability sa publiko based on how they will react to certain actions or moves in the impeachment. So, for example, in EDSA 2, the fact na nagkaroon ng uprising or massive protests not just in Manila but outside Manila, parang it's an indication na meron kasi tayong spirit na naniniwala tayo sa pananagutan, naniniwala tayo sa katotohanan. In the Corona impeachment side, when Chief Justice Corona until he walked out, people were seeing that they might actually not have the 2/3 vote kasi it became very sympathetic. It looked like persecution siya ni Chief Justice Corona. But the moment he went out and made it seem to people that he was not accountable to the public, then nag-change na naman yung public mood behind it. Itong kay VP Sara na impeachment, important din in a sense na after everything is said and done, pag lumabas na lahat ng ebidensya, and whether for the evidence is weak or the evidence is strong, how the public react to it is also a trial of us. No? Parang tayo mismo, importante ba ba sa atin yung ganitong values, or should we just move on? Which is, I think, what other people are asking.
Okay, since this is a bit of yun nga, impeachment history 101, nabanggit mo yung tatlong kaso so far, no? Yung kay former President Joseph Estrada, which started in year 2000 and ended nga in January 2001. And then you mentioned itong si Chief Justice Renato Corona, who was the only one among all of those people impeached who was convicted by the Senate,
Yes.
no? So that's another. You mentioned Renato Corona, and then of course the VP Sara Duterte na may kasulukuyang trial, no? The other ones, just to mention the other ones, no? Si former Chief Justice Hilario Davide Jr., this is in year 2003. Pero na-dismiss nga, hindi na umabot ng Senado yan, di ba? And then the ombudsman.
Yes.
Yeah, ombudsman, under our constitution kasi may mga ilang public officers, di ba? Starting with the president, vice president, chief justice, ombudsman, and also other members of the Supreme Court, di ba? Yung pwedeng
Plus
ma-impeach.
chairs of the Constitutional Commission. So yun yung
Yung COMELEC, that's right. Kasi nga, si Andres Bautista.
Andres Bautista. Yes.
Oo. So basically, there have been 6 impeachment cases under the 1987 Constitution. It started with former President Estrada and then Chief Justice Davide in 2003, Ombudsman Merceditas Gutierrez in 2011, Renato Corona, the only one who was convicted in 2012, and then Andres Bautista, who was COMELEC chair, and he was impeached in 2017, pero nag-resign siya before going to trial. And then si Sara Duterte na kasulukuyang magsisimula na yung trial niya, no? So my question is, the others resigned before going to trial or before the trial ended, no? Why did Chief Justice Corona decide to continue with the trial when he could have resigned and saved himself from having that record of being the only one convicted?
So, I wouldn't know personally, no, and I don't think Chief Justice Corona has written out memoirs explaining that decision to continue. I think, but looking at this objectively based on the records of the impeachment, there are probably 2 reasons. Una, I think at that point, and he was the last witness, I think, presented for the defense, by the defense, parang things were going his way. They were able to explain some of the evidence against him. No? So parang, in a way, and remember, mataas ang threshold sa impeachment. You don't need to win a majority to convict. You need to win 2/3 to convict. So parang may chance na hindi abot dun sa 2/3.
So he miscalculated.
Possibly, right? But the
yeah.
critical miscalculation was I think when his blood sugar dropped and napatayo siya, he left the Senate chamber. The reaction of the senators was just shock kasi. So, but that might have figured in. The other was, he had nothing to lose at that point by continuing kasi if he resigns as Chief Justice, he will not be reappointed anymore. Or parang it would be difficult to make a case for reappointing a Chief Justice who has resigned. So, tuloy na lang yung laban niya. And I think if you look at the larger events around that, si Chief Justice Corona framed his impeachment fight as really a fight for judicial independence. It was his claim na
there was a larger cause, in other words.
Yes, that the Aquino administration was going hard against the court, and part of it involved defending the court. So my famous scene of him speaking in the Supreme Court balcony in front of all of the employees, parang ala Evita, where parang he asserts yung judicial independence. And parang hindi ata pasok doon sa fighter narrative na yun for him to just back out, no, of the impeachment. So parang I guess he had more to lose than to gain if umalis siya while the trial was ongoing.
Itong nabanggit natin na six impeachment cases, they're all under the 1987 Constitution. We've had two previous constitutions which have also had impeachment provisions, di ba? The 1935 Constitution also had provisions pertaining to impeachment. And then I think there were only two impeachment cases, no, under the 1935 Constitution, si Quirino and Macapagal.
I think Quirino and I forget the other one, no, but they did not proceed kasi to a trial na mamatayan
Hindi na
sa...
umabot pareho yata hindi umabot sa Senado. And then of course the 1973 was kind of a Marcos Constitution. But basically ang isang, I think I recall reading one of your articles where it was a lot harder to impeach under the previous constitutions kasi you needed, I think, 3/4 of to even initiate a
In
impeachment in the House under the 1935, and you needed 3/4 vote as opposed to 2/3 to convict. That led you to calling the 1987 Constitution the Accountability Constitution. Tama ba yung reading ko sa yung
yes.
thoughts
So
about that?
I think scholars, constitutional lawyers are always trying to find meaning sa Constitution kasi it's a very short document. You've seen it na parang ang daming bagay na hindi accounted for. If you just look at the Senate drama the last few weeks, laging in questions of interpretation of the Constitution yun. So one of the things that we've been trying to theorize is pag may vagueness in the Constitution, how do you understand it when the text isn't clear anymore, no? Or even if the text is clear but parang contrary to the purpose of the Constitution, paano mo unawain yung sariling batas mo? So one of the things that I tried to do was to look at ano ba yung possible parang ways to frame the Constitution. One is potentially a social justice constitution. Half of the Constitution's provisions are on social justice, which means hindi walang assumption of equality in the market. May role ang government to play in public life and to provide for people. But the other way to also understand it, and hindi inconsistent, is really accountability. So traced yan to EDSA being, or EDSA 1, the birth of the 87 Constitution, being a fight not just for human rights, which is on the social justice side, but also for anti-corruption, no, and then sa plunder of the first Marcos administration, and in many ways, parang that accountability framing should help us understand paano unawain yung some of these more difficult provisions of the Constitution. So I think in the article that I wrote that you were mentioning, marami kasing issues in the last impeachment of VP Sara last year, where open questions talaga siya, and it got really a lot of lawyers mostly excited. How do you resolve it? So yung suggestion was, rather than engage in itong mental gymnastics of what these words mean,
Yeah,
let's try to
what was
read
the intent, di ba? What was the intent?
Yeah. Para ako, go to accountability. Kasi ultimately, yun naman yung what the impeachment provisions are for. They are under a provision or an article of the Constitution called accountability of public officers. So parang how else should we understand it?
So in other words, attorney, if in case there's vagueness or kind of debate or argument about the meaning of things or the intent of this or that provision, ang sinasabi mo, let's side with the interpretation that facilitates accountability.
Yes,
And not
exactly,
to
that.
escape accountability.
Yes,
right?
And I think if you want an example of this, no, one of the key open issues now is what happens if halimbawa si Vice President Duterte resigns while the impeachment trial is ongoing. During the ERAP impeachment, he resigned while the trial was ongoing, but the Senate decided not to continue. So we thought, objectively, when we were writing itong piece na to, that is also what most scholars, impeachment veterans would think. But we were surprised na last year when we hosted the forum, yung sense talaga universally of academics, former senators, former justices was impeachment as a second consequence, which is disqualification. In the text, no, parang shall not exceed removal and disqualification yung penalty for impeachment. And therefore, if you will allow a trial to end in the middle of the truth-finding proceeding, na matapos na lang siya kasi magre-resign yung public officer, that officer will be able to run again, then
Yes.
parang iniwasan mo yung accountability. So, the reading according to accountability would mean tapusin niyo yung trial hanggang dulo, regardless of whether the official resigns.
Okay, well, that's of course very relevant now because of the scenario you just mentioned. Si Andres Bautista, si Merceditas Gutierrez, they resign. Si President Estrada, they resign. Pero ang sinasabi mo, dapat ituloy. But what if the Senate does not want to continue? I mean, is this a matter for the Supreme Court now? I mean, who will actually decide? And of course, I know you have another matter altogether, no? Yung involvement in the Supreme Court dito sa mga ganitong bagay, no? But that's your opinion, no? That's your
Mhm.
that's what you and may perhaps other scholars would like to see happen na ituloy nga for accountability reasons. Pero ultimately, that's up to the Senate.
I think it's ultimately up to the Senate. So, and I think you want to look at it from two perspectives. One is whether the court will get involved. So,
You mean the Supreme Court?
Yes, the Supreme Court will get involved. So, it's highly unusual for the court na tapos na yung away politika, sasabihin niya mag-away pa kayo ulit. Diba? Parang i-continue yung away niya yan. Normally, yung court tries to avoid that type of intervention. So, I would be very surprised if a petition will succeed na ituloy niyo yung trial and the court will say, yes, it is your duty to continue it. The second is history. So, the decision to continue with the trial, I think the Constitution says you should do it. But just because the Constitution says na dapat siya gawin, may limits yung power ng court to order its co-equal branches. So the Constitution might say one thing, and pwede sabihin ng court na you should do that, but whether the Senate will follow is a different thing altogether. And if you ask Senate President Drilon, no, we asked him last year, if your position now, SP Drilon, is that dapat magpatuloy yung trial, regardless of whether the Vice President resigns, how do you justify what the Senate did in 2001, which is, dinismiss nila yung case, right? And he said, I think they made the political judgment that it was just better for healing and reconciliation na itigil na lang natin yung trial kasi aandar naman na yung plunder cases. No one could have predicted that ERAP would have mounted a very close to successful run in 2010 when he ran against Pinoy. So, even yung decision to continue with it, minsan may political judgment din na involved. But I think yung EDSA's two circumstances are highly unusual kasi may popular uprising and parang you really needed to heal certain rifts in public then.
But of course, the senators today are going to cite that case, di ba? I mean, precedent is very important in your profession and in politics, di ba?
Yes. Definitely you will expect them to cite the Estrada precedent na tapos na yung trial, diba, go home, let it go kung in case mag-resign yung vice president. But, it's been a good 20 years since yung ERAP impeachment, and presidents inform us, but there are also other precedents that may further inform us. Since then, nagkaroon ng impeachment in the United States where we take exactly the same rule where si Trump in 2021, after he stepped down from office, nagpatuloy yung Senate in the trial for the January 6 riots against him. So they impeached him while he was still in office. They did trial after he left office. He ultimately won that vote, kasi mataas ang impeachment threshold din sa US, similar to ours. But the point is, it shows you that there is sometimes reasons to continue with the trial. Kasi they don't only concern the public officer who is guilty being a danger to the current public, they might constitute a larger danger to the public in the future or to other democratic values or ideals.
Okay, may usapin ngayon na this whole concept of accountability through impeachment or through filing of maybe plunder charges against particular politicians is just another word for political retaliation or political warfare, 'di ba? So how do we ensure that itong sinasabi mong accountability, no, na hindi gamitin nga na as a weapon, no, ma-weaponize yan for political retaliation? Kasi nga halimbawa, I mean, we know that Vice President Duterte is leading in the surveys. Kung ma-acquit siya or she resigns and is still allowed to run again, kung sino man yung, I guess that's a damper on maybe some people's willingness to pursue this case against her. The possibility of making them accountable, or being the subject of political retaliation under the guise of accountability. I mean, maari ba maging endless cycle ito?
I think that's fair if you have a government na yung prosecution of cases, the filing of cases is solely determined by one person and unchecked yung tao na yun. So you saw that in the last administration to a certain extent, di ba? Senators, Senator Laila is a good example. May drug charges which ended up all being dismissed against her when the administration left. Parang you can see how lawfare has that potential na baril mo yan ngayon if you're on the winning side, but when the elections happen, tapos nag-reverse yung fortunes mo, ikaw naman yung on the other end of the gun. So I think the way na iwasan yan would be, again, two things. One is yung institutions matter. Yung institutions like the ombudsman matter. Kasi if you have an independent ombudsman, hindi yan madidiktahan ng presidente. If you have a strong justice system along with the ombudsman, hindi sila matatakot to rule against the administration. So, ngayon, malakas yung filing ng cases. I think there is a fair observation that many of these cases don't happen to hit the president's allies. So kailangan yung second point, which is public vigilance. And I think that's also something that we lost in the last 10 years. Yung parang the public just caring genuinely about whether nagtatrabaho ba yung gobyerno nila. In public discourse to a certain extent, nag-descend siya into yung parang fans na lang yung public of certain public officers, no, parang either fans or faithful, nananampalataya sila, instead of it being the reverse na in a democratic system tayo naman kasi yung boss ng public officer. So I think you get encouraged by the last year in the sense na yung public has been quite vigilant compared to maybe the most vigilant in the last 10 years. And my hope na the impeachment gives them another opportunity to watch multiple institutions closely at the same time. Actually, all three branches of government, even the Supreme Court, will somehow be under scrutiny in the next few weeks and months dahil dito sa impeachment.
One aspect of the 1935 Constitution that is sometimes highlighted is, it puts more value on institutional stability. That's why it was harder to impeach under the 1935. Itong 1987, it's easier to impeach, no? Kaya nagkaroon ng 6 na impeachment cases, no? So that's why also people like you call it the accountability constitution, no? But I'm wondering, historically, have impeachment trials strengthened or weakened public confidence in democratic institutions?
That's a very hard question to answer, no? But I think on the whole, yes. During ERAP's time, and mahirap kasi i-segregate yung effect of it being just the first 2 decades after EDSA 1, a revolutionary moment, with the fact that the impeachment parang gave EDSA 1 a second wind all the way to the GMA administration. The same forces against ERAP or the same civil society that was so vigilant during ERAP's impeachment is the same civil society that was vigilant during the 10 years of GMA amid the various corruption scandals. So magandang effect niya in that sense na parang, buzzword talaga yung accountability at the time. good government was a focus, corruption was parang being monitored closely. So magandang effects on in that sense. Yung sa Corona impeachment, I think you start to see the dangers of it being conflated. Kasi on the one hand, I do think that not declaring a SALN or not declaring your wealth as somebody who also files a SALN, honestly, especially kung gano'n kalaki yung amounts, mahirap yun i-justify. No? Kasi why would you not put it there? And to that extent, I think fair yung charges against him in impeachment. But I think given how active the president was in effectively prosecuting yung case ni Chief Justice Corona then, taken with revelations after na pork barrel was used allegedly to sway certain votes for the impeachment, parang mawalan ka rin ng tiwala doon. So I guess it's not really the impeachment per se as an institution na may effect on democratic health or better democracy. It's what we do with impeachment, what happens around impeachment. If pwede siyang gamitin definitely as a platform for better government. But if it's used clearly as a way to weaponize, or parang mostly as a way to weaponize a proceeding, even the Americans were warned by their founding fathers about this. So Federalist 65 says na they recognize that impeachments can start very much as a partisan activity. Na obviously merong Party A versus Party B dyan. But ultimately, they should evolve throughout the process into finding things that everyone can agree on. And I think we have that opportunity because of our tradition of impeachment, how it has developed sa Pilipinas, but also because of how long this coming one will be. If totoo nga na 90 plus days yung mangyayari.
Alam mo, yung isang irony na that's probably obvious to a lot of people is despite all of these impeachment cases, so we've had 6 under what you call the accountability constitution, where it's become easier to impeach a senior public officer. Parang the amount of graft and corruption that seems to be going on now, just based on the amounts, no? I mean, are mind-boggling, much more mind-boggling than the amounts that were, for example, discussed during the time of Macapagal when there was a complaint against him, or even in terms of yung mga amounts na nandun sa SALN ni Corona, or even it even dwarfs whatever whatever Estrada was being accused of. I mean, we're talking about parang a trillion pesos worth of graft and corruption now, di ba? We've all heard about this in the last year or so. So parang is this a failure of the system? I mean, that's the reason why you have impeachment. That's why you have a conviction, di ba? Is to show the public that this could happen to politicians. This could happen to a Supreme Court justice. So you better shape up. No, I mean, this is a way of cleaning up government and society. And yet, parang I don't know. It may have even gotten worse.
It's a fair question kasi I think certainly correlated yung high number of impeachments in 87 with the growth of graft in government. Kung titingnan lang natin, are they following the same patterns? And the answer is probably yes, even without hard data. But I don't think it's necessarily causated. I don't think that impeachment is the reason why graft has exploded from the public accountability side. Hindi lang kasi impeachment is an institution, but there are many other institutions that have failed persistently in the last decade. And I think while it might cast impeachment or give too much burden on the upcoming impeachment, regardless of where you stand, yung trials itself, at least yung trials na natuloy, so ERAP, Corona, the last 2 times, were an important self-examination moment for the public about values that are important to you or values that are important to the public. In ERAP's case, hindi lang siya about the graft, alleged graft. Of course, that was very important coming from out just 13 years after Marcos, 14 years after Marcos. But important din yung questions doon about what do you expect yung moral uprightness of your public officials. And it became an important thing na behind the scenes in the impeachment, even though hindi siya among the articles of impeachment. in CJ Corona's case, it became an important public conversation about you have empowered a Supreme Court in 87 to do all of these things. What happens when that empowerment goes too far? So important the examination moment in China. Should you keep some of these institutions in check? So I think you expect those types of conversations in the current impeachment just by looking at the last failed impeachment ng kay VP Sara in 2025. Kasi yung conversation that was coming up around that time was, hindi na ba talaga importante yung good government sa public natin? I mean, 700 million allegedly is a small amount compared to the 3 billion flood control. It is still 700 million.
Yeah.
That is
Mind-boggling nga yung mga amounts ngayon, di ba?
it's a huge amount. And parang hindi ba talaga natin pwede habulin yung public officer for that? Or parang yung Senate ba natin hindi nila ipopolice yung ibang branches? Captured ba talaga siya ng politics? So madaming ganong conversations that happen in public because figuratively the rest of the country watches the single proceeding.
Okay, so looking ahead, no, so what historical markers should observers like your law students, no, ano dapat yung ino-observe natin dito?
Well, I think very important is what has happened in July 6, no, which is yung opening statements. If those opening statements were delivered, then it would create kasi a good indication of ano ba yung narrative behind the cases. As a former trial lawyer, sometimes madali yan sa judge even without painting a narrative. Kasi yung judge, pag nag-decide on many cases, checklist yan eh. Do you meet the elements or not? But yung public doesn't think that way. Or non-lawyers don't think that way. So yung tali ng kwento, importante yan. Those types of opportunities to lay out yung buong kwento ng prosecution at ng depensa. Parang importante yun na bantayan. The other would be the critical witnesses. So marami kasing witnesses that will be presented on the basis of partly drama, partly performance. So just with all due respect, as an example, yung Mary Grace Piatos na witness, interesting yun kasi kung hindi talaga totoong tao yun, you will have an empty seat there. Yeah? So may ganun na drama na created by it. But on the whole, meron kasi mga dokumento na supposedly malinaw for either side, no? Though important yun kasi easily digestible by the public yun. But I think the third thing we need to watch, it would be how the senators deal with each other. It is not unusual for impeachment to be proxy argued by senators in the Philippines. Even in the United States, that has happened. So if you look at the ERAP impeachment, Senator Miriam, rest in peace, no, was one of those na parang seen as defending the Estrada side. That famous incident where nagkaroon ng walkout, no, was in the middle of questioning a prosecution witness. In the Chief Justice Corona's impeachment, Senator Miriam was also involved. But you also had certain senators who were supposedly proxies for the Aquino administration arguing their side. So I'm a little worried because and other senators have observed this. The unusual thing about yung current na Senado natin is not so much na polarized sila. I mean, that happens in past Senates. I think that it's become incredibly personal. Yung away nila or yung galit nila for each other. So, kahit sila mismo, I think kailangan bantayan. Kasi many of the good or the information that we got from yung Estrada and Corona impeachments actually didn't come out in the lawyers' questioning. They came out in the senators' questioning. Kasi hindi mo pwede objectan yun. Like, unlike the other types of questions that the other lawyers or that the lawyers may raise, pag yung senator judge yung nagtanong, wala kang choice but to answer, even if potentially objectionable yan in court. So, interesting yung, I think for the public to see yung dynamic of the senators. If they're very much split as the trial goes on, then I don't think you can expect a conviction despite how strong the evidence is. So, it's a long 90 days if matatapos all the way to 90 days. Of course, there's an option on the part of the prosecution kasi na to drop certain grounds, no, or both sides to drop certain witnesses. But it will be important for the public to watch. Because I think the Senate, as you see from the last month, really does listen or watch the public. Titingnan nila yung temperature ng public and yung acceptance for what they're doing there.
So nung nabanggit mo na there's been a history of senators being proxies or being proxy, I guess, what do you call, proxy defenders or defense lawyers for the person on trial, no? In this particular Senate, I mean, we essentially know where the senators stand as far as the person on trial is concerned, no? I mean, either kakampi ka or critic ka or kalaban ka ni Vice President Sara Duterte. So these senators now bilang judges are obliged to be what? Impartial? Parang even though everyone perceives them already as being, may kulay na, or you're siding, you're already in this camp versus that camp. But ano, di ba mahirap na mag-project ngayon na I'm going to be an impartial? Are they obliged to project that now despite their reputations and all of their statements in the past, pro or against somebody, something?
They are absolutely required to do it. The political neutrality is something na hindi lang in the Senate rules, it's something they swore to a few weeks ago. So they have to do it. Now, how they do it is the interesting part. Kasi definitely making statements out to the media might not be advisable. No? Kasi parang clearly, from the judge's perspective, even in a real court, hindi naman nagpa-public statements yung judge. And so, trying to sequester themselves from yung public media questions on this might be critical. The second is, even in the questioning, and I say that, kanina, Senator Miriam defending Corona or defending ERAP, I say that with tentativeness kasi those questions were fair when asked. And I think it's in the way you ask the question. Not just in the way you ask the question, but dun sa substance ng tanong. Kung ikaw yung parang other side na kino-cross-examine yung testigo, tapos ang tagal-tagal ng questioning mo, mapapaisip naman talaga yung public na parang mas matagal pa yung airtime ng senator kaysa dun sa lawyer. And that might not be a good thing. The third might be, as a way to preserve political neutrality, like no one is pretending, wala naman nagpapanggap na walang bias yung mga senators na to. Kasi may affiliation sila when they ran for office.
Oo nga.
But, diba, but it doesn't mean that we don't expect them to still act neutrally. And again, babalik ka dun sa aspect of the vote in the impeachment being a moral question. You see that in the example of Lito Lapid, for example, in the 2012 impeachment of Corona. Morally coded yung language na sinasabi niya. And I think all of that is important for our senators kasi we don't have surveys to work on right now, but my sense is mababa yung trust ng public sa Senate as an institution and in their members. So important for them din itong opportunity, yung impeachment, for them to recover a lot of the goodwill that was lost because of the various rigodons in the last few months, among others.
Okay, so just winding down, decades from now, no, or maybe 50 years from now, what aspect of this process, this impeachment and trial, do you think legal scholars like yourself, no, I'm just thinking about in the future, anong aspeto nito yung tingin mo magiging pinaka-significant para sa future scholars?
My guess is that, and it's something we haven't talked about, no, yung it's in the way that the Supreme Court has shaped the process. We are at the point today only because hindi natuloy yung trial last year. And hindi lang natuloy yung trial last year because of certain orders by the Supreme Court. So both in the initial order, but then even yung final decision or resolution that came out in 2026. We have a conventional wisdom from the 1987 Constitution na we want the court to be more involved even in political questions because we know what happens when yung Supreme Court natin umiiwas sa issue dahil lang supposedly political yung question. And yung people blame the Supreme Court for what happened in Marcos in 1973 when martial law was effectively constitutionalized. Kasi yung Supreme Court decided not to intervene in that case. So in 1987, meron tayong parang shift in understanding na in there the court should get involved. But I think last year was the first time in a long time that you started to see even the strongest defenders of the court question that premise. That do you really want to not just judicialize everything, but to legalize everything? Or do you want a more mature democracy where law and politics work hand in hand, or may healthy interaction between the two of them? Because if that were the case, then yung political process in the impeachment last year would have played out, di ba? Hayaan niyo sila to panindigan nila yung boto nila sa House if it turns out that VP Sara is popular, or let the evidence speak for itself. So I think yun yung one of the things that scholars will study. Assuming, I mean, we're just looking at the first few days of the trial, no? Baka marami pang drama na mangyari later on. But unusual yung level of intervention that the Supreme Court has done in this impeachment. It has intervened in past impeachments, but it has never gotten to the point where it laid out specific guidelines for another co-equal branch. Na parang ito yung kailangan nyo gawin para maging valid yung process nyo. And I think that fundamentally changed yung process na to. So you see that because in the House of Representatives, sobrang tagal nung committee hearings. Kasi parang mini trial na nga yung nangyayari. And then in the Senate, you have an unusual arrangement now where nagkaroon ng pre-trial, something that you only really see in court. It's a good thing, it helps the process, but it's only something that you see in court. So all of that, I think, boils down to impeachment being depoliticized and further judicialized. I mean, in the final analysis, though, it will really still is a political process. And I think delicado then for us to think that this will be anything close to a legal judicial procedure.
Okay, that's a wise note to end on. So thank you so much for your time, attorney, and for sharing your perspective on this critical political and legal process. We all hope the country will be better for it. Attorney and Law Professor Paolo Tamase, Associate Dean of UP Law School. Maraming salamat sa iyo.
Thank you as well, Howie.
Thank you, Podmates, for watching and listening until the very end of this podcast. Alam nyo na, nakakatalino ang mahabang attention span. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and binge watch our videos for more. Until the next pod, mabuhay kayo at ingat lagi.